So in 2020, the point in time count recorded 201 individuals in Spartanburg and 80 individuals in Cherokee County experiencing homelessness. United Way of the Piedmont is committed to making homelessness brief, rare, and non-reoccurring by implementing programs and strategies, as well as convening and advocating for individuals. Some things that we're involved in include the Homeless Task Force, the Litter Hero Program, HEART, Challenge for Change, and then Coffee and Conversations, things like these. So I'm going to now turn it over to Shantae to introduce our community panelists who are doing great work to address homelessness, and have them share more about the work that they're doing and how you might be able to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Shantae Miller. As Sarah stated, I'm excited to be a part of the Coffee and Conversation today as we talk about homelessness awareness. I want to let you know this is brought to you by the African American Leadership Society, which I am a member of. As a member, we look to change what we do in our community through philanthropy work. We hope that you could get involved with AALS and learn more about what we do. We are impacting and changing lives. We are collaborating and doing things to advance our African American community as well as our community as a whole. With the work of United Way, we will see a better future for our community. But let's jump in today and talk a little bit about why we're here today, and that's homelessness awareness, brought to you by African American Leadership Society. On our panel today, I'm excited to have such amazing leaders. Thank you all for being here today. But with us, we have Marilyn Nguyen of the city of Spartanburg. We have Mark Alberson from Miracle Hill Spartanburg Rescue Mission. We have Beth Rutherford of Spartanburg, of the city of Spartanburg as well. And we have Holt Bynum with the Opportunity Hub. I'm going to give them an opportunity just to go around, tell you a little bit about who they are and what they do. We'll start with you.
Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Beth Rutherford. I am the Homeless Engagement Specialist with the city of Spartanburg. I'm involved in Heart Outreach, Homeless Court, coordinate the homeless point in time count for Cherokee, Union, Spartanburg counties. And I've been working with homelessness since we moved to South Carolina in 2005.
Hey everyone, my name is Marilyn Nguyen. I am the project coordinator for the city manager's office at the city of Spartanburg. A part of my role, moved down here a couple of years ago from St. Louis, Missouri, and hopped right into this world of homelessness and figuring out the strategy and collaboration with our partners to address some of the things that we see and experience here as it relates to homelessness. So I help oversee the homeless engagement and response team and HEART, as well as Litter Heroes and other things internally at the city as it relates to homelessness.
Perfect, thank you. Hope.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Hoyt Bynum. I'm the Executive Director of Opportunity Hub, formerly known as SPIN, Spartanburg Interfaith Hospitality Network. Our organization is here to help those who are homeless and provide a day-night shelter. And so I've been in this position now since February, and we have officially changed our name from SPIN to Opportunity Hub April of this year. So I'm very excited to be a part of this initiative and be working with such great individuals on this initiative of homelessness.
Well, good morning. I'm Mark from Miracle Hill. I've been doing this for 20 plus years in Greenville and Spartanburg. I've been director of several of the facilities, and now I get the joy of simply being the program manager. Yay, me. Get the opportunity to work with Marilyn and Beth on occasion. I'm the program manager at the Spartanburg Rescue Mission. And so we are sort of like the first line of defense on getting them out from underneath the bridge. So here we go.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for being here. As we know, homeless is a serious issue affecting our community. So we want to jump right in and find out a little bit about resources, things that we're doing to combat this situation. So we'll start with you, Mark. Why is it important to address homelessness in our community? Can you also share how it impacts things like health, economic mobility, and education?
Sure. Well, think about it this way, the broken pane philosophy. When you see a neighborhood that has a bunch of broken windows, or as you see the broken windows start to increase, something's wrong because somebody's not taking care of the problem. Well, it's the same thing with individuals. When you start to see a creep, an increase in homelessness, you understand that there's a a thin supply line that's happening. You know, and homelessness is rampant everywhere now. It's not just this community. And if you think that, then you're sadly mistaken. So as we begin to move towards targeting those that are less able to move up, when you look at where are they living right now, many are living under the bridge, some are living in tents, some are living in a cardboard box. So although I don't subscribe to all of the things and the tenets that Housing First teaches, there are some things that are really important. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety is way up there. So if I feel really safe, then I can move to the other needs that I may have. If I don't feel safe, then those things get pushed down the totem pole. So with the mission being present, it gives them a place to at least feel safe first. And when they can feel safe, then we can start working with the other community partners on targeting, well, what are your health needs?
Feeling the onion.
Just let's start there. Let's help you not to die today, because you're not going to freeze to death. We're going to get you in the building. Then we may migrate you to a bed if we can get you there. Once we do that, well, kind of what are you dealing with this one? So we'll start there. And then as we move up, then let's talk about education. So we do a lot of different things. But the first thing is let's get you off the street so you don't die today.
Right.
So
Safety first. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hope, can you expand a little bit about why it's important to address homeless in our community?
Well, certainly addressing homelessness is very important. We must understand first that homelessness is very complex. There's a lot of barriers as it relates to homelessness, and oftentimes people are not aware of homelessness to the point to where everyone, when they see a homeless person, they're painted with a broad brush.
That's right.
And some of those stereotypes negative stereotypes are not necessarily true. And I think one thing that we have to really be careful about when we think of homelessness is that we all could find ourselves homeless. You never know what life circumstances may come your way. But if any circumstances that may come your way, you want to be able to be connected to agencies and individuals that care for you and that won't judge you. And so it is complex. And certainly when it comes to our organization, Opportunity Hub, and working with Miracle Hill and working with the city of Spartanburg and working with the United Way and so many wonderful agencies, our desire is to not give a handout, but a hand up. We want to see those who are suffering, those who are broken, those who have been through traumatic experiences in our life to elevate. And so as we educate the community on homelessness, that's so important. And then as you begin to educate, you begin to break down some of those barriers and understand that everybody is somebody and that everybody should be treated with dignity and respect. However, when it comes to homelessness, we have to work together in order to raise awareness of homelessness. And I think as we begin to move forward, we know that homelessness is not a particular race, it's not a particular religion. Homelessness affects us all. And as we deal with homelessness, it affects our community in so many different ways. And so, again, working together, educating the community on how we can work towards helping this epidemic, resolving this epidemic of homelessness. And it really starts today, right now, as we come together and talk on this particular subject.
Perfect. I think, some key takeaways, Hope, that I heard you say was working together. When you think about education, people instantly think, oh, we need to educate the homeless, right? But we also got to educate ourselves. Right. And having these conversations like we're having today is the perfect start of how we educate, find the resources. I love, I think about the city. We think the city does so many things. The city is also tackling homelessness. Opportunity Hub is tackling homelessness. And it has to start with us educating. But also, I think a key thing you said was treating people with dignity. If we had more people doing that in the world, we would have more people feeling safer to come to Miracle Hill, safer to reach out to Opportunity Hub, and even safer just to go to a community partner and say, I need help. So I love that you brought those how does it impact things like our health, economic mobility, and education? Can you respond a little bit more
Yeah,
on
and
that?
I would love to. And hopping off a little bit of what Hoyt and Mark said, I think the biggest thing for us to remember as well is that a lot of these individuals and families experiencing homelessness are people within our own community. You know, they're our own neighbors. A lot of them, particularly in Spartanburg, they, their previous address was in Spartanburg County. And so when you invest in people, people can reinvest back into the community. And that's something that, we see when you allow someone to move up the ladder, they are able to take that, they're able to get a job, and then they can take that job and reinvest into things that we have in our communities. And then also, share their own success stories with other individuals and families experiencing homelessness to let them know, there is a path up and out. And I think that investment is really important because it only builds more cohesion and success when we're able to address it together. And when it comes to, for example, with health, a lot of the individuals experiencing homelessness, they have a lot of different health needs, physical, mental, behavioral. If those are things that we can work together to address and reduce, the amount of times people go into the ER, that will free up beds, for other individuals that might need that resource, or redirecting us so people that might not know about the resources can utilize the resources that
Resources that they're available. Absolutely.
Yes, the resources that are available, utilizing that and helping other individuals get up and out.
Perfect.
So
I love that you said invest in people and they'll invest back in us.
Yeah.
I think this is the first step of investment, right? You're here today. You took time out of your work schedule to listen and learn. And so this is the first step of investment. This isn't the only step. This is just the beginning step, right? We have to learn first, but we have to put in place those actions. So Beth, I do want to give you an opportunity to speak on that question before we move on. Anything that you wanted to add?
So it's agree about the investment in the community. I worked with a family one time, and this was a single mom with 3 boys, and always just to have a positive attitude. And she would tell me her story, and I was crying, but I go on. When she was working with our shelter, she was helping build Habitat for Humanity houses. She built her own Habitat for Humanity house. She now has a full-time job. All 3 of her boys are in college. She's given that investment back into the community, that the community invested in her. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Not a handout, but a hand up. And so, that's important as we educate ourselves, that we know we're not giving a handout. We're not saying, oh, we're going to take care. We're educating and we're teaching people, and they're able to reinvest and they're able to help somebody else. I love that you said she built a home for somebody else. Yeah. She's combating homelessness right there. And so that's so important. Thank you all for answering that question. Let's move on to the next question. In your opinion, what are top 2 to 3 challenges you see in our community related to homelessness? And we'll start with you, Beth.
I just said this recently. Had I played the lotto a few months ago or whatever, when it was $1 billion, I would have built an in-house in-treatment mental health facility, built a treatment center for people who are in active addiction, and then finally some type of affordable housing, whether it's transitional. I love the transitional housing model because you're providing case management that whole time. We need affordable housing, and affordable housing is not $900 for a 1-bedroom. Affordable housing is $400 to $500 for a 1-bedroom. But just Sunday morning, actually, I was out doing some outreach, and there was a woman begging me to get her help with her addiction. And I could say, all I could say is I'll try, I'll work with some places, but without having that right here in Spartanburg, that's difficult. So yes, it would be housing, mental health facility, and please, mental health does a great job, but we don't have a place that they can go for an extended period of time.
Yeah, wonderful. Marilyn?
I mean, I'll just jump right off of that. I had the same things.
Sorry.
Took all of them from me, Beth. And yeah, I think I just second that. I mean, as a part of the outreach that our team does on the streets, we see a lot of the same experiences of people, you know, needing to address their addictions. A lot of them may want to, but don't really have a place where they can actually go and detox from, you know, whatever they're using before they can go into a transitional housing program, because that's a gap that we have in this community. And then mental health is something that we see a lot of too, especially for, you know, individuals. There are a lot of individuals on the street that may have gotten into their situation of homelessness because of their mental health challenges. And there's also the other way around of people that didn't have any mental health challenges until they got to the point of homelessness. So it's something that we kind of see with a lot of those that we work with. And then the other piece, yes, having more affordable housing, transitional housing, opportunities for the individuals here. And I think that's something that we see kind of nationwide as a trend.
We have seen a growing rate of mental health. And I think that you're so right. Both of you ladies hit on that topic. Our last conversation that we had was about housing. And we know housing is a growing challenge. I was on the phone with somebody actually talking to me about they were looking for a house to rent, and they were telling me how expensive a house was. She said, well, how much do you think this house was? A 2-bedroom. And this morning I gave her a number and she was like, now double that. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? But sometimes we forget that, right? Because we've lived in our house for so long, or we aren't actively seeking to find housing. So I think that, you know, definitely we have to look at how we address that issue because it affects homelessness, right? If you don't have anywhere to go, you automatically, I think Hope said, we're all close to being homeless. You know, think about, you know, my aunt said to me one time, she said, think about if your paycheck stopped and no money came in and you were searching for a job but couldn't get it. Would you be homeless? So I think that's all we all have. Those are our neighbors, right? And so we have to really address those issues. I do want to give you and Hope an opportunity to respond to that question. So Hope.
I think a couple of challenges is certainly to continue to find ways to bring a greater challenge and perspective to homelessness, a campaign. Because I think oftentimes that I think from the community, so many people are not aware of homelessness. I talked about those stereotypes. And when you understand mental health, as Beth talked about mental health and affordable housing, we think that when you're homeless, that yes, you may be homeless, but you're not helpless. You know, we have many who are homeless, but they work every day. You have many who are homeless that are able to do for themselves, but they may not be able to have the resources to afford the 1-2-bedroom home, depending on their social security or their disability. So I think the education of awareness, because those who work with homelessness, we need resources to continue to work with homelessness. We need the resources to continue to bring awareness in a campaign. And so I think more and more and more homelessness needs to be on the forefront of the community perspective, and to, as I mentioned before, break down some of those stereotypes. And once you begin to understand the dynamics of homelessness, you'll be surprised that when you see a homeless person, just because you see them on the street and we say, well, they should be working, while they're laying around working, well, the fact that they was up all night trying to protect their belongings. And so there's a lot of things that we're just not informed. So I think as a community, the more we bring awareness, and as today, which starts a Homeless Awareness Month, the month of November. This is wonderful that we're doing this because I think the more the community understands, the more resources will come our way, the more we are able to help those who need our help the most.
Perfect. Mark, I want to give you a chance to respond.
Well, I'm just going to say that I wrote that down before.
Thank you for asking me first. You got the proof. The proof is in the pudding, right? It's got its own.
So thank you.
So I agree. It's housing and mental health are two of the major hurdles. You know, Jesus said, "The poor you have with you always." And so I think we need to approach it from that perspective. If you think that you're going to have a program, a singular program, or a contingency program that's going to eradicate homelessness, then you're out of your mind. It's not going to happen. So what do we do? I think that another thing, most Americans are 4 to 6 paychecks away from being homeless.
Right.
Now that's the truth. And it got quiet in the house before.
It's a true statement.
So that's the truth. And I don't know the exact number, but I think it's in the top 10. Spartanburg County is in the top 10 in population growth. Now that ought to frighten you. Okay? Because if we think that the homeless number is going to go down, if you look at just the influx of people that are going to come,
Right.
it's not going to go down, it's going to go up. Now, that's a good thing because the economy's growing, things are good. Skippy, that's great. But a lot of people come to this county because the economy is up.
Right.
So they hop a bus and they come down and all of a sudden they lose their job. Now what? Now I'm homeless in a place.
I should not really know. Right. Absolutely.
I don't know.
Right.
Okay. So that's going to go up, and we need to be aware of that piece. But I agree with you. It's the mental health piece as well. Not everybody had a mental health problem prior to becoming homeless. Homeless, but the stress of it, what we call CSE, constant inescapable stress, literally, chemically rewires your brain. And things you start to make different types of decisions because your decision maker up here inside your skull bucket starts to operate different.
Right.
Because you're under, well, just like you said, I stayed up all night to protect my stuff.
Right.
And now I've got to go to work. That's right. Okay. And so now I've got to pull a 10-hour shift, and I'm thinking about my stuff that I stashed somewhere.
Right.
So can I be really forward thinking in my particular job? No.
Right.
And so now, I fail at this. And so there's all this guilt, shame stuff starts just compounding. We have a great relationship working with Spartanburg Mental Health. They are so understaffed, just
And overworked.
and overworked.
Spread
And so you've got guys that, I can name several of the counselors that I work with, and they're calling me all the time. Well, is so-and-so still there? Well, I've got them scheduled, but they didn't show up.
Right.
And so it's just this melee of stuff. It's a soup.
Right.
And but those two things, if I were able to do something immediately, affordable housing, like I said, get them in Miracle Hill and all of this. So nobody is in an emergency shelter because things are going right.
Yeah, that's true.
Something's going wrong, or you wouldn't be there. Something didn't work right.
Right.
But we're glad you are there. But that's not a long-term housing solution. So how do we get you to some place? And so, like you said, it's affordable housing isn't let's scrape the dirt and let's put up a $500,000 home.
Yeah. Right.
Which is what's happening in this county.
Yeah.
So when you have an influx of people and you're building $500,000 homes, $1 million homes, where are these people going to live?
And we also have Spartanburg County is very rent burdened. You have people who have mortgages that are less than a rental payment. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Right. Absolutely.
So to be housing and fund the folks that are currently working with mental health, they are just so understaffed.
Yeah.
If you get people stable, I've got a guy I can think right now, he's been in and out. Yeah, so he's finally gotten to the place where he's stable.
Perfect.
Well, that took
Wow.
A year. Right.
Yes.
Wow. Absolutely.
so.
Well, Mark, I was going to ask if you had a magic wand, what would you do? If there was no limits to, combating housing, whether that's education awareness, but I'm guessing I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to say, if you just had a magic wand and you can do one thing, what would that be?
Well, the first thing I would do is bring in affordable housing. We do have transitional housing.
Right.
Across this county, but also in other counties. So they migrate from the shelter or
Right.
recovery program to a transitional house. So that's 6 months to a year, but then what?
Yeah.
So in that time frame, you know, working with them, working on a budget, have funds set aside so that they can make their down payments, security deposit, and all that stuff, and still have something left for the kid,
Right,
so that they're not having to live on COVID back in ads for 6 weeks.
yes,
But I would have housing that people could actually
actually
afford.
afford, perfect.
And if I can touch on that, why I like the transitional housing method and permanent supportive and rapid rehousing, even though I'm not a huge housing first component.
Yeah.
But it's not just, you know, so many people say, hey, they just got $10,000, now they can get a home. Well, that's where it starts. So you've
Right.
gotta have those case management pieces, that
Right.
supportive services. It is
Right.
full
Right.
circle, and
It's not
at least
one
a
piece.
year.
Right, and
Yeah.
we think that you can't take care of your sleeping bag.
Right.
So if you won't take care of your sleeping bag, what in the world makes me think or
You're gonna
believe
make, yeah,
you're gonna take care of a home? So we
Right.
start with, hey, you gotta make the bed.
Yes.
yes,
See, we don't even think about thinking critically, because we've been taught to think critically since we were this high.
right,
So it's ingrained in how we think. We don't think about risk assessment and all these things. We do it innately because
Yes.
we're taught to do that. But most people weren't.
right,
And so
Right.
we have this expectation, okay, you came in, you got to do this, now go get home.
Kind of like what's the measurement of success? And I'm like, that they came to the appointment on time, that their socks matched.
Right.
I mean, you know,
right,
it's
right,
and you take those little steps and you'll achieve,
Correct.
but if you take big steps, it's too much.
Hold, I want to give you an opportunity to respond.
Well, and I like what Mark was saying. Oftentimes, we expect individuals to better themselves and
Right.
move forward. But then we're not providing all the basic necessities. One thing that Opportunity Hub that we desire to do is to have a 24-hour program, because we expect an individual to, you know, get the hand up and move forward. But then if they don't have a place to stay at night, you know, when you have someone sleeping on the streets or in the bushes, and then you expect them to work a 12-hour shift,
That's right.
Right,
that's gonna get, just this very morning, a young man started a job today. He works in cow pens. Well, he has to be there at 4:45 a.m.
Yeah.
And so his job is to work from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, had he not had a decent place to stay, had he not had a place to close his eyes, and think about trying to protect things in the elements or cold, and how would he be able to get up, get himself together, go to a job and work 12 hours and expect to be productive when you didn't really get enough sleep?
sleep, right,
And so the desire is that when we look at our homeless and for them to better themselves as we think they should be better, they should be working, they should be doing all these things, but we have to make sure that we provide all the necessities that they need. We have talked about case management and those services. We talked about, you know, the showers, laundry, all the things that they need to be successful, but also not only the day programs, but the night shelter over their head. In order to be successful, we have to come together as a community and begin to make sure that we have all the necessities that we need to have in order for our homeless personnel to be successful. But we can't expect anyone to be successful when they haven't had a good night's sleep.
right,
And so that's just the reality of it. So as we partner and work together and bring more awareness, I think that's the alarm that I really want to share with our community, how we are working together, pulling our resources together to make sure that we have a round-the-clock type program for everyone to be successful and to be able to track that data and see what our statistics will be if we pull it together with our resources.
I think that's great that you said that, Hope. And what it reminded me is we've got to have all the pieces to the puzzle, right? Our puzzle can't be complete. We can't throw you out and say, here's a job, now go be successful, right? Because you're going to end right back up where you were because you hadn't had a good night's sleep. You don't even know how to make your bed, or you hadn't protected, you know, your sleeping arrangement. So I think getting all the pieces to the puzzle, and I love that you said bringing all of our resources together. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the city doing its thing and Miracle Hill doing its thing and, you know, Opportunity Hub doing its thing or United Way. It's got to be all the players at the table saying, here's all the pieces. how do we build this puzzle together to combat this? So I think we have to really think about that from a community standpoint. But I do want to move on and give Marilyn an opportunity. Can you give us a specific example of an initiative or program in the Spartanburg community that is actively addressing the issue that we brought this morning?
Sure. Well, I'll speak mainly to the Homeless Engagement and Response Team, HEART. So that's an initiative that was started in collaboration with some partners in the city in March of this year. And this HEART basically does street outreach several times a week, and we have a city staff person on board. We have someone from law enforcement, and that's a really important piece for us as well, because we've tried to create that environment where people understand that law enforcement is also on the same side, and they're invested in the people as well. And they're also very key to our response sometimes as it relates to supporting some of the individuals that we find on the streets. The other thing, as a part of the outreach that we do, we also have service providers that go out with us. So we've had, Hoyt has been on the team before, Beth, Mark, we've had someone from Miracle Hill come and join us with our street outreach. And the key part of that too is like, we know that, the city does not want to own this because we are not the experts in this field.
Right.
And we want to be collaborative partners, kind of like what Hoyt was saying, in addressing homelessness. And we want to not have to duplicate the services that we're giving out as well. And so one of the main goals of HEART is really to identify the needs of the individuals that we're seeing experiencing homelessness out on the streets, and then connecting them to the resources and services that will benefit them the most, and allow our partners to play their roles in supporting those that we do engage with out on the street. And then the other initiative I'll speak briefly to as well is a program called Litter Heroes. So I think that other piece, there's different levels of homelessness, right? There's people that are chronically homeless, but there's also individuals that are a step up, kind of like what Mark was saying. With Miracle Hill, you guys see there's different levels, and you go from the immediate needs to being more stable, and then needing to build out your life again. From that point, and Litter Heroes is a 90-day workforce program where we employ individuals that are experiencing homelessness to work with the litter crews at the city and the county. And as a part of this, they get weekly case management and they get weekly life skills training. And a part of that is so that we wanted to have a holistic response and support for those going to the program. We want them to not, we didn't want to just employ people, right? We could have done that without employing anyone experiencing homelessness, but we chose to do that because we understand that it's a lot more complex. Homelessness looks very different for each person. And this is an opportunity for people that might have more challenges getting employment. And, whether that be because of their backgrounds or their histories, or they don't, employers might not want to take them because of their history or a gap in work experience. So that's another opportunity that I think our partners have been a huge part of. And sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, and our partners have been a huge part of that. We've had over 12 partners are involved in supporting that program.
So I'm going to explore that more in just a minute, Marilyn, is understand how people can get involved. So hold on that. Thank you for sharing that. But I wanted to ask you, Beth, I know you mentioned as we were talking before we got started with several things, even homeless court that you were involved in. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the things that you're involved in?
Yeah, so homeless court, I'll talk about that first. That came here to Spartanburg. We had our first case in December of 2019. What I love about homeless court is it's not held in a courtroom. It is held at an agency that works with the homeless, so that the homeless don't have that intimidation of coming in, going through metal detectors, judge sitting high up. And it's been very good. We've had 18 people go through. Of that 18, 2 are still in process of getting their application accepted. And these are for people who were homeless or homeless at the time that they were had this crime, and it's minimal crime. It's public disorderly, trespassing, minor shoplifting, nothing violent, nothing felonious. But of the 18, so we've worked with 16, since 2 are still in process with their application. 11 have graduated. Actually, we just graduated 1 last month. It is held monthly. It is now held at the Opportunity Center. And what's really nice too is everybody's invited to the court, and then surrounding the courtroom is an agency fair.
Oh,
So they're getting the
wonderful.
resources as well. We are the 5th county to have a homeless court in South Carolina, and Rock Hill is working on theirs, and they should have theirs by the end of the year.
So education starts immediately
Yes.
when you walk in the court.
And what's nice about kind of what we were talking about before, every participant in homeless court is set up with an advocate and a pro bono attorney.
Wow.
And so now they have someone alongside of them. And now like they're looking at an attorney like, oh, that was someone that's really intimidating, and it's just another advocate for them.
Right. Perfect.
So it's
And
very
it's so
exciting.
important. I mean, we think about, I think about legally, everybody makes mistakes, right?
Yes.
And so they could end up in a court where maybe they couldn't afford, legal representation, or somebody doesn't have their best interest. And this gives them, again, this is not a handout. This is a hand up. You made a mistake. How do we grow from that? So I think that's important. Anything else that you wanted to share about some of the things you're working on?
Well, again, involved in the outreach team. One thing I want to touch on too, going through homeless court, part of my position is that on Mondays and Thursdays, I attend municipal court hearings. And so if someone presents not only as homeless, but maybe I just don't know the resources, then I sit back and I work with them.
Perfect.
So that's been a nice partnership, and it's nice to see the judge wanting to do all of this.
Yes.
So I'm involved in the homeless point in time count, which will be on the last Wednesday of January. And we work for a week to try and count the number of homeless. We've got 2 great representatives for Cherokee and Union County, since Union County for many years has said they have no homeless. So I am involved in that. We are doing a homeless awareness vigil on November 17th at Love Where You Live Park. So we're excited for that. That's from 5 to 7 p.m. I don't know, we do a homeless memorial. I don't know. I'm trying to stay involved.
And I love that. I think it's important. I go back to what Holt said about education, right? And so when you said that about the November 17th, I think we've got to get that out to more people so people can continue to learn and educate themselves on the resources that are available. So, and I am excited about homeless court. We had a talk about that. I think Judge Magency joined us for one of our talks, but I think that's so important as we look at homelessness in our community and ensuring that we are on the right path, right, to eradicating homelessness. But Holt, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the things you are doing, specific examples and initiatives that the community hub is also involved in.
Okay, sure. And I just want to piggyback a little bit with
Yes.
Beth on homeless court. That's been a tremendous blessing to our organization, where our neighbors, we call our homeless neighbors,
Right.
are able to witness the court and be in a more of a family-friendly environment, to where what I love about the homeless court and Judge Magency is that when those who come before the judge and they meet so many goals and they graduate, everybody claps. It's a celebration.
Yes.
Because it's a community effort. And what I love about the homeless court is that all of the agencies come out and be supportive. And so our homeless are able to network and get the resources that they need. And so that's everyone pulling together.
Mm-hmm.
It may be one event that pulls us together, but when we all work together, nothing's impossible.
Right.
As a community, we work together. So I love homeless court. So we have several initiatives that we are doing at Opportunity Hub. One is I mentioned that we have Homeless Awareness Month this month. And so on November the 12th, Saturday, November the 12th, we have a charity basketball game. It's going to be Opportunity Stars against the Spartanburg Legends. And you need to come out and see exactly who may be on those teams. You'd be surprised that those who have been stars many years ago, they're going to pull up the socks to their knees, and they're going to come out with the old Converses, but they're going to come out because it's all about education. We're going to have, the DJ there. We're going to have a lot of agencies there. We're going to have a halftime show. We're going to really talk about homeless awareness, and the mission is going to be free. All you have to do is bring a canned good to the comment. And so those are several different initiatives that we have. We have several different program initiatives that we're working on, that we're collaborating with many agencies. So, but would love to, for the community to really get involved with what we're doing and to check us out on myopportunityhub.org and really learn about some of the initiatives. But we love to partner with you. In order for us to be successful, we have to have partners. If we don't have partners coming together, we're not going to be successful by ourselves. And so everybody that's here, everybody's not here, working together, you know, we can do all things. There's nothing that we can't do when we come together.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. It's November the 12th. Make sure you mark your calendar for that. It's good. I love to see some stars out there. And
We need sponsorship.
Yeah.
We need sponsorship. We need donations.
Yeah.
So go to My Opportunity Hub and consider being a sponsor of giving. But we're going to bring awareness, continue to bring awareness and bring the community together on a fun event. But the awareness is going to be critical as we begin to break down some of those barriers.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. I want to give you an opportunity to respond. What are some of the things that, you know, you're doing and Miracle Hill may be doing to combat homelessness?
Well, first, get them off the street, get them in the bed.
Right.
And primarily, it starts with when the temperature drops below 40, we're projected to, we're going to open up a cold weather shelter. So, and a lot of the guys, actually, we've got a staff member now who started in the cold weather shelter. And in the cold weather shelter, you can be drunk, you can be high, you just can't be belligerent.
Right.
And we're just going to give you a place to sleep.
And a hot meal.
Yeah. And a hot
And a
meal.
hot meal, place to sleep,
Yes.
eat it, let's get clean, wash your clothes. And so he started in the cold weather shelter down as a staff.
Oh, wow. That's definitely a success.
So we get the opportunity to see that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an initiative. Our initiative, I guess, is working with the rest of the partners out here. Because, you know, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, and I know you guys don't.
Yeah.
You know? So working with Beth, working with Maryland and the city, and you were talking about the Litter Hero program. And we've been back and forth with that. And so now, when you were talking about it, I said, this one. And here's the thing about that. Now they're actively employed.
Right.
Wow.
And so that's that's not like you said, not a handout, but a handout.
Yeah,
So they
right.
started, some guys in cold weather shelter. Now I just found out yesterday, the guy has been hired by UPS, starts today.
It's wonderful. Wonderful story.
This chronic street
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just give them a
A
chance.
chance.
guy.
Right. That's
So, but
exactly
that
it.
took from soup to nuts, it
Yeah.
took a year.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to understand it is about the education. Do you really want to combat this?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, you're going to be in it for the long haul.
Right. You got to be patient. You got to do the work.
You got to be patient.
Right.
You don't plant tomatoes today and get tomatoes tomorrow.
Right.
You don't
That's
plant potatoes and expect
right.
tomatoes. Right. So working with that program has been a blessing for us and for the folks there. So that's one. One is just we work with New Horizons Medical that comes in, Access Health that comes in, and to be able to see guys that were chronically sick or had major health problems start to get that corrected. So we're the place where a lot of the other agencies can come to, because there's your pool. You don't have to run down to the land right there.
Yeah. Right.
So we want to open up as best we can, you know, to the other services out there.
Yes.
Here's where all you folks are. You don't have to hunt them down.
That's right. Come
You
to
know,
them.
I don't have to
Right.
track them down. So you've got, if you're managing 60 people, well, 40 of them are commissioned.
Right. Right.
Come here.
Right.
So
Perfect. So you've heard about several things that are happening in our community. Homeless Court, which I thought was excellent. Heart, Little Heroes. You've heard about Miracle Hill and the cold weather shelter. You've heard about Halton and the awareness that they are bringing from the Opportunity Hub. My question would be, looking at the average person who may be out on Zoom World today, and thank you for being here, what can they do to get involved? What can they do to start to make an impact? Obviously, they're here today, right? We're listening, we're educating ourselves, but what are the other things that they can do to get involved? And I'll start back with you, Mark.
Well, I think this would be true for every one of us sitting around the table, the folks that we work with, the agents. Just have somebody show up. Don't try to reinvent. Well, a lot of people think homelessness is one thing, and it's not. So show up, volunteer, find out, come see what gets done. That's the first thing. What is it that you do?
Right. Mark, is there a time? So if I was sitting here today and you're telling me, hey, show up, right? Is there a time or a way that I just come to the shelter? Do I come to Miracle Hill? Is it a Monday through Friday? What are the things that I can do
just show up. The doors are open.
Perfect.
That's how most people volunteer. Honestly, they come up to the front door,
knock. Okay, perfect.
So just come to the front door, and then they'll direct you to myself or director or our intake coordinator or somebody.
Yes.
And we'll get you plugged in. There are a myriad of things that happen. A lot of people come in first and they'll just start serving a meal because, they'll, oh gosh, I saw her on the street or I saw him on the street.
Yeah, so the wheels will start turning.
Yeah. So just show up, volunteer, find out what gets done. We got a guy, his name's Dan, great volunteer. He is retired, engineer, kind of died. And now he teaches classes, he does volunteer driving, he mentors people because he's got time. So again, come in, don't reinvent the wheel, see what gets done. Also see why it gets done.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's not just, this is what we do, but here's why we do it. That's an important thing. G.K. Chesterton was a theologian in England years, 19th century. And the prime minister had written him a letter and said, dear Mr. Chesterton, what's the problem with the world today? I'm just summing it up.
Yeah.
And so he responds back and he said, dear Mr. Prime Minister, in reference to your question as to the problem with the world today, I am the problem with the world today, sincerely, G.K. Chesterton. Because if I don't look and I don't see what's going on, then I can't help.
Right.
So then I'm part of the problem. So what gets done? Why does it get done? And Chesterton also said, before you move a fence, you need to ask, why was the fence put there in the first place?
Right.
See, there's a reason. I was raised on a farm. I had fences around the farm because I had cattle. You wake up at 3 a.m. because the cows are out. That's not fun. Okay. So there's a reason that you do what you do, why you do it. I was invited to the homeless court initial meeting in Columbia 15 years ago. And the whole process. So now I'm glad to see it's here in Spartanburg.
Right.
So it's important to see what gets done, why does it get done, so that you as a volunteer know how to help the agency that's actually doing the work.
Absolutely.
And now you understand it. So now that's that education piece.
Right.
Now you're telling others, wait, this is why it's like this. And do you know how that works?
Right. So I had a police officer come and stand on. He said,
that's okay.
Why these guys aren't getting them in? So because they don't want one. What do you mean? Also, I got 15 beds right now. There are only 13 people sitting out right front, but they don't want the bed. So this is police officer. So the wheels start turning. So now he helps mission. So
I love that. So we've got about 4 minutes. Am I right?
It's 9:48. So we got about 10.
10 minutes. Yeah.
Online.
Okay. We got some couple questions. So I want to give you just a really quick go around and say how the average person can get involved at your organization.
Listen, you can reach us on our website. We have a brand new website, myopportunityhub.org. A lot of great information on how to get involved. We have also what is called every Tuesday, which is called Talking Tour. And you can register, you can come and just be a part of that. We're going to do a presentation and we're going to give you a tour of the Opportunity Center. Oftentimes, I hear that I didn't know that we had an Opportunity Center. I didn't know much about a one-stop shop. And when you say a one-stop shop for homelessness, then we can educate you that it's a one-stop shop in collaboration with the city of Spartanburg. You can see a one-stop shop with United Way of the Piedmont and Miracle Hill and Faith Homes and Carolina Behavior. So many agencies that make up a one-stop shop. And I think one of the community understands that and see that, they say, well, how can I get involved? Right. So I think those opportunities to volunteer, to get involved, and also to our faith-based community, which has been tremendous for us. Those who come out with their mobile units and serve food, those who come and minister and share the gospel. You know, we want to just continue to get everyone involved, whether it's faith-based, whether it's businesses, community, agency, just come out and learn more and how to get involved. And then when you hear that one-stop shop for homelessness, you'll understand that it takes a collective effort for all of us. Right. So myopportunityhub.org is our website.
Just show up. I go back that saying, just show up, right? And then you can educate yourself and learn. So I love that. Really quick, did you ladies want to add anything?
I will add, in terms of heart, something that our team does. We have street outreach, but we also have stationed outreach where we sit in a location. Right now, we've been doing a lot of that at First Presbyterian Church, where we engage with people again and get their information. One big piece of heart is also to understand why someone's experiencing homelessness and how they ended up in Spartanburg, and inputting that information so we can get a better gist of how many people are actually experiencing homelessness here, and then advocating for them at the higher level, especially when it comes to conversations about funds. So you can reach out to heart@cityofspartanburg.org to learn more about what we do as a team, to learn more about how you can get engaged. We've also done educational engagements where we've gone to some of the neighborhood associations, where we've spoken to some individuals, just to let people know what we're doing and what resources are out there. So that is another way to get involved. And we also usually carry hygiene kits with us. And this is, I guess, a plug for United Way's volunteer platform. But United Way does have a volunteer platform where a lot of our organizations put their needs, submit their needs to be put on that website. And you can see, what some people are requesting, clothing items, some people are requesting volunteers for different things. That's a great website to look at all the needs in the community. And I think the other piece for me is, and this is also being led by United Way, but we're all a part of it as Homeless Task Force, but the Challenge for Change initiative. That is a awareness campaign and fundraising campaign that is catered to educating our community on how we respond, what we know about homelessness. And there's a whole website for that as well that can be shared.
Yes. Beth, I want to give you time, so hold that thought. But what I will say, and I didn't even ask for this, so I'm just gonna say it, so hopefully United Way will do it. But I would love for us, as we do a recap, to send out a thank you. Maybe we can give the links to how you can get involved from the panelists here, as well as from a community standpoint, whether that is through a website. But again, it's going to take you showing up, right? It's going to take you getting involved. It's going to take you continuing to educate yourself to understand how we have to collectively work together for change. But I do want to open it up for questions. I know we had a couple questions. Yeah, Beth, I'm sorry.
Well,
no, you, go ahead. You go ahead and answer, then we're going to go to the questions.
I will try quickly to expand with the challenge for change. Right now we're getting into the holiday season, and year-round, Spartanburg is a very compassionate community. It's one of the things I love. But when we get to the holiday season, we see a lot more compassion. I always try to remind people that homelessness is 365 days a year. So if you're so inclined, volunteer. If you want to give money, donate to an organization. Please don't just hand it out to the person on the street.
Right.
If you want to give food, again, give it to an organization that provides. I will tell you, I always tell this story. The outreach person went out for 1 hour on Thanksgiving Day at Richardson Park. And in that time, 5 different Thanksgiving meals were dropped off to the homeless, plus a half a ham. So she went home with about 6 full hams. So that's always one thing I like to talk about. As far as educating, ask any of us to come speak to your organizations, any of your civic groups, to educate people about homelessness. I can tell you, when I go out and do that, people always come up and say, I never even thought about it that way.
Right.
And I always like to say, as far as homelessness, please remember that person was someone's brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, cousin, nephew, niece. We're close to it. We're all of it.
Right. Thank you so much, Beth. What questions do we have?
We've got one that I think is gonna take up the rest of the
Okay.
time.
All right.
It's related to so many of the things that have been mentioned. So talked about, so the question is, it seems like living wages and affordable housing are key elements in curbing homelessness. How are we addressing these particular aspects? And then I'll throw in the mental health, because that was discussed so much as well. So I think I'm going to frame it as from each of, from y'all's perspective, what's happening in those other areas that from y'all's perspective that you know about.
All right, Beth, you want to start?
Yeah, so I will say, here is, Hoyt said earlier, like, and I had that thought before I started working with homeless, just go get a job. But you can't get a job if you don't have an address. Okay, so we could figure that one out. That's an easy fix. But you cannot get a job or you cannot get housing if you don't have your social security card, your birth certificate, your ID. Trying to get some of that is crazy. I talked with a woman recently who was adopted by her grandparents. Her grandparents are dead, trying to get the birth certificate, and she got divorced. And just all those identifiers are really, really difficult. And so it takes time to get that birth certificate. Now that person may not have gotten that job. So working on those avenues first is key to getting affordable housing and living wages, excuse me.
Perfect. Yeah.
I think I'll just second that. I mean, those challenges are things that we're experiencing across the nation, right? And so how do we address the affordable housing piece and the living wages? I mean, I think in collaboration with some of our partners and the investment that we're bringing into Spartanburg specifically, that people are really seeing, and even looking at United Way's self-sufficiency wage. So, how much does it take? What salary do you need to have to be able to take care of yourself and then also your kids? And, anyone in addition to that, I think we have to understand that the full story when it comes to that. And even now, people are working several jobs and still not being able to make ends meet. So I think, again, that's sort of a collaborative piece. How do we get not just our nonprofits and our government agencies on board, but also how do we get some of our corporate partners on board to help support this shift? Because it's a challenge that we're seeing everywhere. And even as, there's individuals, and I don't think we really touched on this, but there's individuals and families and households that are on the cusp or on the brink of homelessness. And I think we also need to invest on that homelessness prevention side as well. How do we educate the community that might have had that generational trauma or the generational gap that's been built over the years? How do we address that and educate people on, something I mentioned earlier with the Litter Heroes program was that we do life skills for them, because a lot of these people, sometimes they grow up, they might have the resources there, but they might not know how to utilize them, or they might not even have the skills of budgeting. Well, where are a lot of your funds going? When you look at the breakdown, sometimes it's like you're getting money, but how you're allocating it is impacting how you're able to invest in the long run. Yeah, so self-sufficiency, I think, is the biggest thing in terms of
So education and self-sufficiency, I think is a real key. I think about Spartanburg Housing. We had them on last time and talking about raising the allowance for rent, right? Because if we give you a voucher and you go out and you can't find anywhere to live, then again, you're back to that homeless state. But looking at raising that voucher level. And then the other key I think we took away from our last conversation was working with our renters, right? Working with our people who are out there with the homes and saying, we have these people, we have these vouchers, we have this, they can't afford it. And so, bringing them in, and I think, I'm just thinking of Spartanburg Housing last time, talking about giving some incentive to our renters to be involved in these task force and these things, and educating them on why it's important that we work together as a community so we can combat homelessness. Hoyt, I wanted to give you and Mark an opportunity to respond before we close out today.
Yes, there's several, very quick, brief, several areas the homelessness as far as affordable housing. With the population that we work with at Opportunity Hub, we see that maybe 6% of our population is over the age of 65. Mm-hmm. And so you have that set income. When you're talking about affordable housing, when you bring in $800 and then you're trying to find a house,
right,
for that age group, and then you have the medicines and different things that you have, it's just not affordable. And so what we've done is done our best. We have tremendous caseworkers at Opportunity Hub, but try to find those individual landlords and those boarding style houses. We just was able to put 9 individuals in housing last month, and we're really excited about that. But those boarding style houses, that individual then tried to raise the price or gouge the prices at $750, $350, $250, and then you had money left over. And so we're just trying to make an appeal to the community to give us an opportunity to maybe provide boarding style housing and give those who are not going to be able to go back to work, but with a set income, a chance to be able to live a successful life for the remainder of their life,
right.
comfortably, without feeling like a shelter is the only option that they have.
All right, really quick, Mark. I think we have 30 seconds.
Well, 30 seconds. Everything they said, yes, amen. I think educationally for the folks coming in, at least to the shelter, everything's a value assignment.
Right.
You trade time to get it. Everything you have, you trade time to get it. And I think teaching them to value their IDs and things like
yes.
that. They live out of a sack and it's not a big deal. And they're used to working under the table.
Yeah.
And so if you're used to working under the table, for them, that's not going to get you out of some mistake. Day labor is going to get you.
Right.
So that's one of the things we try to educate them
Yes.
on. When you come in, unless you have you've got to show up to your probation officer at court with $150 on tips, or putting you in jail, then we don't let you work day labor, because day labor isn't going to get you out of
Yeah, that's right. Right.
So we teach them to value something different.
Absolutely. So thank you so much to all of our panelists for being here today. Thank you for being out there, taking the time to invest in what is happening in our community. We heard about education as a huge, strong piece, affordable housing, mental health, but we also heard about ways that you can get involved. And it starts with you showing up. It starts with you educating yourself. It starts with us showing respect to others. I think that's so important. Please look for a recap to come on this. Please share this information. Knowledge is power. Right? And if it stays at this table and on Zoom, we can't collectively make an impact. But what you heard is that it's going to take our landlords, it's going to take our community advocates, it's going to take our community partners, it's going to take you, part of our community, for us to make a true difference when it comes to homelessness. November is homeless awareness. Please share and educate your friends, your partners, your jobs. Let them know how they can get involved. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you to the United Way, and thank you to AALS. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you, upcoming February 3rd, mark your calendars now. If you've got a Google Calendar, if you got your phones, whatever, we are having our Legacy Gala. It's the first African American Leadership Society Gala. It's going to be held at the USC Upstate. Is that what it's called now? We changed the name and I always have to think about that. But I'm excited about it because it's a way for us to give back to our community, to highlight some of the work that's being done in our community. And we hope that you will mark that calendar down, look for the save the date, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.